We helped a new sofa marketplace go from a couple of daily orders to over 150k a month on Google, and we did it starting out with just 4 Google Ads campaigns. Before they came to us, this brand had already been running Google Ads. They'd set up some basic campaigns, but nothing was built to scale. Money was going out, sales were coming in, but no one could explain exactly what was working or why, because they hadn't built a proper foundation. Marketplaces are tricky because you're trying to attract both buyers and sellers, and the usual Google shopping setup doesn't work the way it does for a normal e-com store because you have changing inventory, not static products which you can optimize. So we had to rethink everything from scratch. And in this video, I'll show you the key changes we made that helped set them up for scale. When this brand first came to us, they were doing a couple of orders a day. They had no strategy, no data Google could learn from, and no structure in the account. And that's the hard part about working with a brand new business. There's no history. So instead of relying on data, you have to rely on strategy, experience, and a clear understanding of how Google's systems behave when they have nothing to work with. They'd already tried Google Shopping and search, but there was no segmentation, no structure between buyers and sellers, no segmentation between brand and generic traffic, and no way of feeding Google the right signals, so the account couldn't scale. It was stuck in a state of guesswork. Once we did our initial audit, a few things became obvious. There was zero separation between brand and generic intent. There was no feed structure at all. Marketplace dynamics weren't being accounted for, and buyers and sellers need different messaging. And because they weren't limited by inventory, they actually could scale fast. They just needed a more controlled approach. This is the point where most brands get stuck. They're spending, they're getting a few sales, but they have no idea what's actually driving results, so they can't scale with any confidence. So let's get into how we actually fix this. Before diving in and making changes to campaigns, we always start with the research and build a measurement foundation. This builds confidence in all the future decisions. So we went through keyword research to see where the opportunity was, competitor research to understand who we're up against and the size of the market, and established financial clarity, looking at their break-even ROAS, their fixed costs, their margins, acceptable CAC, and all of that. You wouldn't believe how many brands don't actually know these numbers or actually spend the time to go through them with their agency. If you don't know your targets, then Google Ads essentially becomes gambling. Once we had clarity on their margins, their break-even targets, and their cost per listing targets, we set up the account to optimize towards multiple actions, not just purchases. Because this was a brand new setup, we needed to feed the algorithm as much signal as possible, as fast as possible. We didn't know how well products would convert, and we had a hunch that products would convert quite low because they're secondhand. We also created a custom dashboard showing the marketing costs, revenue, margins, fixed costs, and contribution margin. So we weren't just looking at what Google reports back to us, we're actually looking at what the business is keeping, which is obviously important. Because of the changing inventory and Google having less static product data to learn from, we started with a TCPA rather than ROAS bidding. This let us establish baseline conversion rate without overspending. Once the AOV became consistent, we then switched to target ROAS, which gave us more control and let us scale spend profitably, whilst managing spend more accurately and profitably. For the feed, we had to take a different approach because marketplace inventory constantly changes. So rather than setting static values for certain products, we had to set quality controls for listings, ensuring that only listings which were complete were publishable on site. We also advised them on improving product data, such as seat, dimensions, color, condition, and all of that, so that Google had the best possible product information. These product labels then gave us a structure to start testing with, and actually a testing structure for both Google and Meta, where we've also been working on their account. We also moved everything into Data Feed Watch so that we could customize the feed properly. Now into the campaign structure.
So we now have 6 campaigns in the account because there's brand campaigns in here as well. But we initially started with just 2 and we've scaled that up from 2 to 4 and then to 6. We started with a shopping campaign because at the time, Performance Max didn't give you good search term visibility. So we started here so that we could start to understand exactly what people search and what converts. So we started with one buyer-focused shopping campaign optimized towards purchases, and then one search campaign optimized towards driving listings to the site. They understandably had to be separate because one is the marketplace driving sales of the products, and one is actually driving listings onto the site. And they also have very different unit economics between them, between what we need to spend on getting a sale and what we can afford to spend acquiring a listing. Then once we had the data, after a couple of months, we then launched Performance Max once we were clear on our metrics, because using Performance Max, we have both the shopping feed in there as well as search. We needed to understand our unit economics first before moving towards PMax because of the lack of search term visibility at the start and because of the crossover there between buyers and sellers. We then, in phase 3, we moved on to search campaigns for high intent terms such as sell my sofa, which we've been optimizing over time in a dedicated single search campaign with ad groups organized by intent, with tight control, strong ad copy, and clarity on our targets. We started with exact match to establish a baseline, and we've expanded that out to phrase match once we had conversion data, and we're now testing broad match on proven high intent queries. And we've got heavy use of negatives to prevent wasted spend and drive high quality listing. We're now also testing, as you can see here, we're testing AI Max, and we're starting to drive good additional volume through AI Max at much less than our standard target CPA. So it does, in this account, it does seem to be working quite well. We're then using these AI Max queries to build out new ad groups and use it for sort of keyword mining to ensure that we keep building out our search campaign and that we have both adoption of the AI systems, and we're taking back control as well. So we're reining in the control once we've given the system some free rein. In terms of bidding, because this wasn't a typical e-commerce store, we started with target CPA because we didn't know what our AOV would be, because there's such a broad range of products and a changing inventory every single day. So based on our blended margins, we set a acceptable cost per acquisition and let Google find conversions at that cost. You see here, we've now, on our buyer campaigns, we've now moved these to a target ROAS once we've had after 2 to 3 months of data, which gives us much more control over the profitability of our ads and allows us to push spend higher. At the start as well, and we recommend this to some higher AOV stores, we tracked and bid towards add to cart, listing submissions and purchases as well, just to get data into the account. Now, the listing submissions didn't have any value ascribed to them because they were just the listing and we didn't yet know the true value of those. This isn't necessarily best practice for mature accounts, but it helps to train Google's algorithm much more quickly with limited data. Once we had enough purchase data in, we then shifted the optimization towards purchases and listings only, which as you can see here, via conversion actions, we're now just tracking both purchases and listings.
PMax became our scale vehicle and shopping stayed our learning vehicle. And the results started just a couple of orders a day, maybe 5 or 10k monthly revenue, and now over 300k per month on the back end, with over half of that coming from Google. And that's with just 6 campaigns. ROAS has stayed consistently profitable because we built the foundation properly. We knew our numbers and we tracked real profitability, not just platform metrics. So what made this work? Understanding our unit economics before spending a penny. Most people launch ads and figure it out later, but that's expensive. We modeled everything first. This let us make fast decisions without second guessing. We also treated a two-sided marketplace like 2 businesses, with buyer campaigns and seller campaigns that had different goals, different tracking, different optimization targets. You couldn't lump them together, at least not initially, because you didn't have confidence over what the outcomes would be. A layered campaign launch. Shopping first for visibility, PMax second for scale once we were confident on our targets, and increasing keywords in search for precision. Each layer informed the next. Custom tracking beyond the platform metrics. Google reports what Google sees, but that's not profitability. We tracked actual cash generated in the bank minus all costs, and this is what led us to scale aggressively. Here's what you should do. If you're running a marketplace or a complex e-com business, map your unit economics first. Your break-even CPA, your target ROAS by product or product category. Build a proper feed infrastructure. If your inventory changes regularly, you'll need automated rules and quality controls to ensure you're not pulling your hair out. Layer your campaign launches. Start with visibility in Google Shopping and layer in PMax for scale. If cash flows are concerned, don't try and launch every product at once. Track real profitability. Platform metrics lie. Build dashboards showing actual cash generated minus all costs. Scaling a marketplace with Google Ads is harder than scaling a normal e-com store, but the principles are the same. Know your numbers, build proper infrastructure, launch strategically, then optimize aggressively every single month. This brand went from a startup to over 150k a month on Google because we did the boring foundational work first. If you're an e-com brand spending at least 20k a month and you're looking to scale, then book a call. We'll audit your account, show you exactly where you're leaving money on the table, and build you a custom plan to scale profitably. Get the foundation right and you can scale with confidence.